Hi, I'm Dr. Mila Brujic, and today I'm joined with Dr. Jimmy Deom, where we're going to be talking about whether or not private practice optometry is dead today on the OI show. Dr. Jimmy Deom, first and foremost, thank you for being on this episode of the OI show. Jimmy, share with the audience when you graduated, when you first became an owner in the practice that you're owner in right now, and give us a 2 to 3 minute snippet history of how you went from where you are to now four practices or four locations.
Yeah, so thanks for having me. I appreciate it. As a fellow podcaster, I know it's not always easy to get folks on. And, as I sit here, I'm thinking to myself, and I got a lot of stuff to do, but I'm going to do this because I know how hard it is, and it's fun. I enjoy it, and it's always a lot of fun, chit chatting with people and kind of just learning a little bit more about them. And I love listening to podcasts too. So
Amen.
I love the opportunity.
I think we learn from the conversations as well too.
Yeah,
Sometimes even more
definitely.
so than we do in a continuing education course.
100%. So I graduated in 2014 from PCO, and I knew the whole time that I was there that being a private practice owner was something that I wanted to do.
Was that something that was common, Jimmy, or were you one of like the outcasters in that time? Like most of your friends thought, nah, I don't want to join private practice, or were most thinking,
Yeah,
yeah, I want to follow that same path?
I think people say they do, but then are few are willing to, take the risk to actually do it. At least that's what I observed. I think, there were a number of people that went into private practice, maybe that had family, not that that's a bad thing, but people that I know of that are, in private practice that stick out in my mind. I think 50% of them had family histories, in eye care and joined their parents. And then, others just, got lucky. And I would say I'm one of those people. I got lucky. And um, I always say I was flirting with the doc that I did a rotation with. And I swore I would not go back to this location because it happened to be in my hometown and I did not want to go back there. I actually was this close, very close to buying a 1 lane office in the middle of nowhere, Vermont. I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but my wife and we went, I did a rotation in Vermont. I love Vermont. I love the outdoors. I love hiking. And we went there. We went and talked to a local bank. My wife is a physical therapist. She interviewed at the local medical center for a job. And we actually looked at a house. We were very close to doing it. And, I often think, what would life have been like if I did go that way? And I'm sure things would have turned out fine. But, I decided to, go back to my hometown, join this office, a established office, a well-known doctor. His name is Dr. Tom Kislin, good friend of all of ours.
And a great reputation professionally, even
Yeah.
outside of your office, Jimmy. Like, I mean, just a great
Yeah.
reputation, a great guy.
He's a national speaker and a national thought leader, and dry eye, certainly. And so, having that background and really seeing, how he had practiced and how he had built a practice and how you could practice was, he had what I wanted, and I'll not to downplay residencies, but I was thinking about a residency and, just at least for me at that point in my life, and I try to do this myself. And that is, if you want what I have, you'll do what I do, and that was kind of what I saw with him. And I didn't see that necessarily with residency at that time. They didn't have what I wanted. They weren't doing what I wanted to do or where I saw myself.
So,
And
Jimmy,
so,
how long after you started with the practice did you officially become partners then?
yeah, I mean, it was part of the discussion from day one. I mean, I still remember sitting down, at the office with Tom's wife, who's also an optometrist, but hadn't been practicing for, let's say, close to 10 years, and my wife, and just, hey, this is where we're seeing ourselves. This is what we're doing. I think they knew, I was serious about joining the practice and growing the practice and being a thread of the practice, ongoing, and that was I didn't want to waste time. I wanted to be there and grow it and put my blood, sweat, and tears into something that I felt like was gonna, bear fruit. And so, it was put into the contract right from day one that, after every year I would have the right of first refusal. We would sit, we would discuss, and be able to, make an offer, and that offer would not be offered to anybody else. And it was like a different time, when I really think about it. That was, again, 2014. Nobody was talking about private equity at that point in time, thank God. But that was day one, and then probably 3-4 years later, 2017, and throughout 2017 is really where we started to beginning was when we really said, hey, we're going to do this. And so in the middle of 2017 is when we became business partners. And, what was interesting was, again, from 2014 to 2017, there really was no private equity discussion. 2017 is when that really
now
began.
Jimmy, did you go in and were you guys 50-50 partners? Is that how that transition happened?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, that's something we've kind of gone back and forth on, or we went back and forth on. And so he wanted to maintain, majority share. So we were 51-49, which is actually how we still are. We are 51-49 still to this point, that he is a majority shareholder in the practice. At that point, it was like, you know what? I just want to get my foot in the door. I probably should have negotiated harder for that 1%. I tell him that all the time. But, the way that we have it written, the contractual agreement, he can't do certain things without my approval, and I can't do certain things, obviously, without his approval. So there's no way that he could just say, hey, tomorrow I'm selling the practice to private equity or to another partner. We can't, it has to be 100% agreed on. So while there is a difference and he is a majority shareholder, it was made clear and he was okay with that, we would be able to basically
Jimmy,
be equal as far as decisions go.
I think too, looking at your future, it may be the way that things transition as well too. So as the practice continues to phase, you may take Tom's position, and then the next younger individual may take your position. So understanding kind of I think there is certain wisdom in seniority, and I think that a true 50-50, although it makes total sense when everybody agrees on everything, if there is a disagreement, ultimately a decision has to be made somehow as well too. So I can understand that. So Jimmy, when did you guys buy into the practice with just one location, or did you guys have multiples at that time?
We had two locations at that time.
And then when did you incorporate the next two then? Because now you're up to 4 locations.
Yeah, so the next one was really 2019 into 2020.
Great time, Jimmy. Great, fantastic timing.
I'll tell you what, it ended up working out just fine. We made it work because we were, always, available, and we were always on call in emergencies and at local hospitals. And so I think it was actually to our benefit that it happened in that way. But
and Jimmy,
we did a cold start.
You ran a practice through the pandemic, 3 locations. If you could do that, everything else is like a piece of cake, relatively speaking, right?
I think so. Yeah, it was a crazy time to be alive, right? So we made it.
And then you recently purchased the 4th location, correct?
Right. Correct. Yep. That was just, this is very new. So it's like 3 months now. And we're not full time there because we just didn't have the manpower just yet to really dedicate a doctor there 100% of the time. But it wasn't a 5-day a week, 8 to 5 practice anyway. So it's working out just fine. Yeah.
Jimmy, now the crux of this discussion is you are following a phenomenal trajectory and a great path. You're a young guy. You're now a part owner of a 4-location optometric practice. Again, I know how you practice. I know the passion that you have for optometry. Are you an exception to the rule? And is practice ownership and optometry really something that's gone by the wayside and really not something that future generations of students and optometrists can be looking forward to? Or are you paving the way for really kind of the next generation and saying, yeah, if you want to own your own practice, this is something that's possible?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I think like in my first 5 years of practice, I didn't hear many people asking me how to do it or how did I do it or what could can you help me or do you have any ideas? It was very uncommon that I heard that. And I feel like over the last year now, I'm hearing it a lot more. And I don't know if the pandemic had something to do with that or, if private equity has something to do with that. I know I keep saying that, but I do think it's challenging, but certainly I see a lot of single docs, little mom and pop type shops closing up, and no, a lot of nobody's really taking their places. Not seeing the same number of new places opening. You're just not seeing that, and so I hate to say it, but I think that there is a lot of challenges for private practice optometry, and that the market dynamics seem to be favoring groups, which hey, I'm an advocate for groups and not necessarily single offices, but even single ophthalmology groups and single private equity groups, even over groups like yours and mine. So yeah, I mean, I think there's lots of challenges, but I think the desire is out there, and I really, the more I think about it, the more I think boy, I need to figure out a way to help people do this. And I feel like there are programs out there. I know Vision Source, which we're not a part of, does something, and other groups do as well. But there's just so much to it. There's the real estate side. There's all the accounting. There's the business. There's the insurance. There's the practice management. There's a lot that is easy to get, fear driven mentality as a result of. But you know, I don't think, what I keep on coming back to is private equity wouldn't be buying up all these places if it wasn't a good business, you know?
Jimmy, one thing I enjoy about you is you're never afraid to share a piece of your mind. We've been at a lot of meetings together where you've certainly stirred the pot and more or less challenged people in a good way because you've asked the right questions. And I think that it's important to ask those questions. There's always, when we look at this platform, there's always a pros and cons to everything. Nothing's ever roses. And if anybody ever tells you everything's roses, they're lying. But I think practice ownership has pros and cons, and you kind of need to weigh those, and you need to ask yourself, for me personally, do the pros outweigh the cons? And if you were to, what are the two biggest challenges that you feel are as a practice owner? And then what are the two biggest opportunities or the two biggest advantages that you see as an owner?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with the two new practices, I've really been sort of in charge, if you will, of the staff. And we had one manager like that really was great and helped us with two offices, and she's still sort of over all of the offices. But we really do need leadership, in each one of those locations. And so I think as you grow, having a leader that's there for you, whether that's another associate, whether that's a staff member, who's got nobody's going to care as much as you, but that has that level of indebtedness to the practice and has skin in the game, that they're going to make the right decision for you no matter what. Finding and being able to tap that leader has been a very big challenge for us.
Jimmy,
we had somebody.
What about the advantages? So those are challenge, and every organization has that. But now talk about the opportunity and the advantage. What makes it tick for you to say, I'm passionate about business ownership in particular when it comes to optometry?
I just think there's nothing that beats it. I think there's absolutely nothing that beats it. I mean, I get told all the time, why are you so happy? Why are you so chipper? I can tell you don't work at all because you enjoy what I do, and it's because I am able to make decisions that I believe are best for the practice, best for the patient, best for my community, and those aren't things that are dictated to me. They're things that I believe are truly the best, and Tom and I share a very similar perspective, and so I think it's just autonomy, and I'm on my way to a lecture right now in New Hampshire, and I'm able to do that because I can do that. If I want to do that, I can mix it up and be able to do those things. And now have we just hired 3 more docs for another location, so we have 9 total doctors of optometry between our 4 locations. And I'm going to be able to do things if I want, inside the practice, outside the practice, in optometry, outside of optometry, because I have that autonomy.
Jimmy, you are an awesome guy, and optometry is fortunate to have you again.
Appreciate that.
Most of us wish we had a sliver of your passion and your energy, and we thank you for it. And thank you for being a guest on our show today, Jimmy. I know you're a busy guy, and you making time to be on this show means a lot.
Appreciate it.
And thank you all for joining us for this episode of the OI Show.